All right, so I'm going to begin the meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee on Human Services and the Committee on Rules and Ordinances to consider the legal counsel's recommendation to the noise ordinance. This meeting is being televised from WCA TV, and there's a link in the agenda. The public may join the virtual meeting online, and there's a link in the agenda. And if you have any comments or mentions, you should email Councilor Gannon at jgannon@watertown-ma.gov. That's J as in Jim, G as in George, A as in Apple, N as in neighbor, N as in neighbor, O as in Oreo, N as in neighbor, at watertown-ma.gov. So I'm going to take the roll since we have to have everything. Motions all have to be made, so we'll start with the roll call. The chair of the Committee on Rules and Ordinances, Councilor Donato.
Present.
Okay. Councilor Woodland.
Present.
Councilor Feltner.
Present.
Councilor Gannon.
Present.
Councilor Bays.
Present.
Okay. Also joining us is Councilor Vinnie Picciarelli, and from the town planning, Gideon Schreibner, our senior planner. Let me see if there's other participants. Okay, we have a number of people who are also present as attendees who are on the call. So welcome to the attendees. If there's nothing else that we need to do, I'm going to move us forward. So
Sorry,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. Could I see that Ann Cox is on the meeting. Does this mean that she's taking minutes as secretary for this meeting?
No, Ann doesn't, no.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify.
Actually, who is going to take the minutes?
I was taking minutes. I just wanted to clarify that was me.
Thank you, Councilor Feltner.
Thank you.
Okay. So I just want to ask one, maybe someone can, maybe I'm doing something wrong. I wonder why I can't see the attendees on my screen. I can see you all, but I don't see the rest of the attendees. And I should just say my computer is not working. The one in the town computer really is not working. I had to borrow a computer just to get on tonight. So it says, can someone tell me what I need to do to see the attendees?
Yeah, I can speak to that if you'd like me to.
Please do.
Because you're a subcommittee, but we're using the webinar, you cannot see the attendees, but I am keeping track of them, and I will note if someone raises their hand.
Okay, so you're going to be keeping track of when people raise their hand. Is that right, Gideon?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, so let's begin.
Mr. Chairman, I note that there are 10 panelists and 8 attendees in our list.
Yes, that's what I see. Yep. Okay. So let's begin by, we're here to review that let me just preface this by saying that this draft was agreed to by the members of the two committees. It was approved quite a while ago, back in February of 2020. Councilor Donato and I sent it to the town lawyer for one look-see to make sure everything was okay. Actually, it was actually approved earlier than that. It just took a little time for the town lawyer to get back to us. And then we had a version that everybody has that's dated in February. So without delaying this much, let me just begin and ask, go to the first change in the document. So I believe we'll find that change under section, hang on a second. It's number 11. I just need to find the correct. Under alarms, and then down to number 11, down to 4 under stationary non-emergency single devices. If you could turn to that, then we go to engine exhaust, explosions, defect in vehicle or load, horns, and number 8. Number 9 is loudspeakers and public address. Number 10 is radios, television sets, and musical instruments. And the one that we're talking about is noise. So as you see the change here. What the hell? The change here made by the town attorney. So does anybody have any?
Tony, I'm fine with the change the town attorney made. I think we all received an email from a resident. I think the concern was that the way this language was changed would allow this noise that's detailed in item 11. It would allow that these types of noises between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And I don't believe that's what this change is doing. What it does is that it specifically details that that these noises are prohibited during 10 p.m. But that any similar type of were to occur during the daylight hours, they would be governed by the standards set forth in 95.06. So I'm fine with the language as is. I think Attorney Rich made the change because he said the previous language was ambiguous and unenforceable. So I'm okay with his change. And I also, just to address the concern that we received from a resident, I don't believe that that change would then allow such noise between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm assuming you wanted to hear from the committee first before the public. I need it.
I think,
Can you
I think we
hear
might-
me, Tony?
I think we might have lost Tony.
Oh dear.
Ugh.
Is there no other chair?
Yeah.
Lisa, I'm happy to, I think we might as well continue, and when Tony gets back on, we can catch him up
Sure.
to any comments that are made in his absence. So specific, do you have anything?
I
that's
echo
specific?
I echo what you're saying, Councilor Donato. I'm just wondering how you can reassure us. We've run into this before where the wording turns out it meant the opposite of what we thought, and that's not the case. It turns out the opposite of what we thought, but where in the noise ordinance it would, are we just going by that overnight hours in terms of regulating peace and quiet by the police after 10 p.m. or how do we know it's not allowed between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.?
Sure. So when we were initially making changes to the noise ordinance, we didn't have all of these items in 9503B specifically enumerated. This was something that was, I think, came from the Somerville ordinance, and residents suggested that, it would be good to include a list. So one thing that's important to note is that this is not an exhaustive list. It's just kind of examples. And so although the items in number 11, it's limited to the hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. If you then go down to section 95.06, that's when we come to the noise standards, and that's where we have the charts. So I know the complaint, I believe, was from Casey Park, which would fall. So during the daylight hours, between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., if a sound is less than 10 minutes, the maximum decibel level is 65. Between 10 minutes and 2 hours, it would be 60. If it's in excess of 2 hours, the maximum decibel level would be 55.
Right. So, and just so the committee knows, I'm receiving these types of complaints. It's not just at KC Park. But so are you saying in 95.03 where it says sources of noise pollution under B, because it says said enumeration shall not be deemed to be exclusive? No, yeah, that this is an list of examples, but pretty much anything else that, to your point, meets the threshold in 9506 would be considered noise pollution?
Sure, exactly. This was just, I think the concern was maybe that the 1980s ordinance had not a lot of substance at all. And then when we started to work on this, I believe the concern was just that people were maybe having a difficult time taking what was written on the page and applying it to real life. So that's why we imported these examples, so that it would maybe kind of illuminate what we were trying to get at in the ordinance. So this is just examples. By no means is it exhaustive. It's, I guess it's including but not limited to would be another way to describe the items listed in 9503B 1 through 14.
Yeah, that's more clear to me as a lay person versus said enumeration shall not be deemed to be exclusive. I mean, I read it aloud and I understand it, but for a lay person, what you just said, if it's acceptable to council, would probably be more clear, in my opinion. I don't know how the other people feel.
Anybody, I know this was, again, this was one of the sections that we took right from Somerville because people wanted it. I don't have Somerville's ordinance right in front of me, but I'm going to guess that language mirrors the Somerville noise ordinance. If we want to tweak it a little bit, that's fine. I know that there's some concern amongst residents and probably members of this joint committee to try to get this back to the full council as soon as possible. So, I mean, my suggestion would be that maybe we take up the changes that were sent to us by Attorney Rich, and then people can keep a list of their own comments, because I would imagine when this gets back to the full council, this isn't going to be the only issue that is raised. So I think Attorney Rich will be present, or another attorney, one of the other town attorneys would be present at that time. So we'd be able to talk through any language changes at that time, as opposed to whether or not, if we make any changes here tonight, we've got to send it back to the town attorney to review before it goes to the full council. So I think it probably, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, I just think it might make sense for people who have concerns about specific provisions to keep track of them, and when it comes to the full council, address it at that time. So next step is, we vote tonight, next step is to the full council.
But that's fine with me if you feel like otherwise it would really have to go to the town attorney. I just know traditionally council tends to like things as tight as possible, but I totally understand what you're saying, and that is okay with me. If it's okay, I guess, with President Sedaris.
Councilor Donato,
I tell you.
could you just brief me what happened on this particular number 11, please?
Yeah, so Lisa had a question, and she was basically looking for some clarification. I'm not sure if you heard my initial comment that in subparagraph 11 there, it's detailing that these noises are specifically disallowed during the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So the question was, where in the ordinance does it deal with 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.? And I directed Council Feltner back down to 9506, the noise standards, and the table that's laid out there with the zones and the decibel levels. That's obviously one way of measuring it. The other would be the 10 decibels above the background noise, or 3 decibels above noise level for tonal sounds. So just pointing out to the committee and so those who might be joining us tonight, where noise between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Are addressed. That then led to a follow-up question from Council Feltner regarding the items listed in 9503B. And my response was, this was just a list of examples that came from the Somerville noise ordinance which were adjusted to fit Watertown as opposed to Somerville. And really, these items are just supposed to be examples. It's not
Right.
supposed to be an exhaustive list of items that are deemed noise pollution, but more just explanatory items so that, people who might be having a difficult time understanding what the language is, because again, obviously there's some legalese contained in here, would be able to make a connection with a real life noise issue to see what might constitute noise pollution. I made the comment that in 9503B, alternative language could be including but not limited to, because to Council Feltner's point, she thought that maybe the word exclusive might be confusing for lay people. So my suggestion was that we address the changes that Councilor Rich made tonight, and then when this goes to the full council, if councilors had individual concerns that they wanted to be addressed with such as a potential change to 9503B, we could bring it up at that time, because either Attorney Rich or another one of the town attorneys would be there for consultation. I figured that might make the most sense so that our next step is review by the full council as opposed to questions if we have to send it back to the town attorney for review before then.
Thank you for that review. I appreciate that, and I apologize. I don't know why I got cleaned out, stuck out. So the next place that there's a change is under 95.0.
I think Caroline had a question on
I'm sorry.
11.
No, because I stopped it because I realized what you were saying and I put my hand back down.
Okay.
Because I agree with you. We should,
Mention that to the people there's people who have their hands up, so I just.
So, so before we get to any of the attendees, were there any other comments from counselors? And then I'll ask Gideon to help us with the attendees. Now, Tony, do you want to go through all the changes first, or do you want to go through them one by one and then open it to comment?
I think we should just go through them. They're not that many. I think we should just get through the changes. So the next
Okay, I agree with
change,
you.
the next
So
change.
Lisa, you done with your question on 11 and we can move to the next one?
Yeah, I think I have a new question, so I'll wait till the end that we can go to the new changes that are already here.
Okay. So Tony, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my apologies. I don't know why I got kicked out. But the next change is under 95.04. It's just the addition of some reference to some of the DEQE and the DEP noise pollution interpretations. So I don't see any problems, but I'm opening that up. So that's that one. Then further down, the other change was made way down in the document under 95.07. There's a small change. It asks that we take the word occasional out and just begin the paragraph with the word parades. And then I believe the final two cases had to do with the issue of First Amendment rights. Well, the next one had to do with the information of First Amendment rights. And as you see, the town attorney took out the words, any activity to the extent federal regulations therefore have been preempted by state and federal law. And he he changed that to say religious, political, or non-commercial public gatherings to the extent that such are protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. And then the final one is 95.08, duties and responsibilities of town departments. He took out A, and he just moved us on to making B A, all departments, town departments and agencies shall comply with the state and federal regulations and the provisions and intent of this ordinance, respecting the control and abatement of noise to the extent that any person is subject to such laws and regulations. I believe that ends the changes from the attorney. And so why don't we entertain questions on any of those changes? Just please reference where you're talking about so we can move back and forth. Any,
Oh, Tony, just real quick, 95.04, those were not changes. The reason it just shows up differently is because they're hyperlinks to those documents.
oh, I apologize. Thank you, Counselor. My error. So now on the ones that are in red, which were the changes made by the town attorney, can we have the town councilors first? Any comments on those? Counselor Feltner.
She unmuted herself.
You have to unmute, Counselor.
Sorry, I think you can hear me now.
Yep.
I think it's just two things. One, we have amplified sound in definitions on the first page under 95.02, but then I'm realizing I don't think we refer to it again, and I'm wondering, should that be something that's included on page 7 under exceptions, 95.07, exceptions, to be more clear, maybe section C, where
Counselor, are you saying we're really at this point talking about the changes that the town attorney made?
right, I guess I was bringing it up just because you took out the word occasional, but I'm happy to wait. I have two things that I can wait.
Well, I think, okay. Anybody on the changes that are reference to the changes that the town attorney made? Remember, this document was approved by the two committees back in early 2020 before, or it might have been this in the 2019. So we really asked the attorney for changes that in order to make the document whole. Is there any other questions regarding the changes that were initiated by the town attorney?
I'm fine with the changes that the town attorney made.
I'm fine with the changes the town attorney made.
Councilor Bays?
I'm fine with the changes.
Councilor Donato? Okay, Councilor Gannon, excuse me, Councilor Gannon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am fine with the changes from the town attorney. And I wanted to ask a procedural question with regard to the emails that were sent to me in my capacity on the as the person to receive emails on the agenda list.
Okay.
Should I read into the record at some point?
Well, let me just close out this portion and then we can open it up to public comment and including comments that you received, Councilor Gannon, from the public. Okay. Councilor Feltner, if you have changes to the document at this point, I think they really need to be brought up during the discussion when the document goes to the town council.
Well, I think it's good to talk at a committee level rather than getting bogged down at the full council. They're not major changes. I have two questions just really around clarity.
Okay, go ahead.
I was hoping the committee could discuss. That's what we're discussing, right? Is this final draft before it goes to the town council?
Well, the final draft was approved already. We're changing, we're responding to the changes from the town attorney. But if you have short ones, please go ahead.
Sorry, just a point
So
of
my
order.
short,
Wait a minute. We do have to acknowledge the fact that the posting for this meeting was on the changes from legal counsel. So anything outside of that scope was not posted for consideration for this evening. So that should be
so
noted.
thank you, Chair Palumba, and thank you for noting that, Chair Councilor Woodland.
So
For
you-
clarity, as I know we like to be really clean when we come to council, is that we do a great definition of amplified sound, but then we don't refer to it. And so my suggestion would be to add amplified sound along with parades, outdoor gatherings, public dances. The other one is really just a question, if someone could remind me, under exceptions, it's not a change by the council, but as written, if you could remind me, announcements and music played during graduation exercise in Watertown interscholastic school games in accordance with agreements promulgated by the town administration. I'm on page 7. If the chair or other committee members, could you remind me, because I know there was a lot of discussion, I believe, around enforcement. Is this, if you indulge me and remind me, that's how the wording that we came up with back when it was approved at the end of 2019?
Could you just point to that exception? Is it an A, B, C, D? The exceptions are in order of.
Yeah, so
of,
exceptions, it's 9507 exceptions on page 7.
Yeah, but which
B,
one are you? B.
announcements and music played. I know there's a lot of discussion, including with Councilor Piccirilli, who's also on this meeting attendee. Agreements promulgated by the town administration. That is what we came up with it in the town manager's office, deciding around enforcement for those activities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So when we say town administration, we're really talking about town manager.
And anything that he has, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That was my question. And my
Okay.
one suggestion on amplified sound, because we don't mention it anywhere else. I realize now that we have a clean draft from the town attorney.
Okay, so I'm
Thank
going
you.
to suggest, only to, and I'm not sure, and I'd love to hear from the other members, whether we can, is it okay to, I think I'm going to make this decision and ask the other counselors what they feel. I don't want to open up this discussion for changes in the document. So I'm going to ask that if Councilor Feltner will just hold that, and maybe that could be reflected in the minutes, that she is raising the question about, what was it?
Just adding, including amplified sound
Yes,
under
if
the
you could keep that,
exceptions of
keep that in the,
9507C.
right, keep that in the minutes, but I'm not going to entertain a discussion of that other than that it's in the minutes. And then when this document comes to the full council, we can reference that. It could be written in the minutes, and when it comes to the full council, we can address it. So we now just, we have about 15 minutes. Shall we make a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. We need to check in with those people who've raised their hands. Gideon?
Yeah, the first one, I'm going to allow Pete Santola to talk. I've unmuted him.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. Pete Santola, Director of Recreation, as well as a resident of 58 years, 25 Thurston Road, Watertown. Hope each of you are well. And again, this was a long time ago, but I remember there was some discussion, and I'm not trying to change it. I just want to go on the record. I wish it could be changed, but on the top of page 7, no person or organization shall play amplified sound in public parks without a permit from the appropriate town department. So I'd like to get some clarity. You saying that so the other day I went to Evergreen Cemetery, thank you, it was in Brighton, but I played a song on my phone and I sang. Is that a violation of this ordinance? Or, so for instance, a mom with her daughter playing Frisbee in the park, and they're playing a song low key that's below the decibel level and is not offensive. So I'm just concerned about that, about the fairness of this. Is it consistent? Is a park, is the Rotary, is the Delta and the Rotary or Watertown Cemetery a public park? And I just think it's just not practical and it's not fair. You know, if I want to go out and play tennis and have my phone and I'm playing some background music that isn't offensive, I don't know why we're treating it differently than anything else. In addition, it's impossible to really make sure that happens. I clearly get, I've been down to Victory, I've been down to Casey, I've been down to Arsenal, where loud music, inappropriate, and I've stopped it, and I think that's reasonable. But I think, you know, with this line E, it says no person or organization, is just kind of over the top, non-enforceable, and not consistent and fair to the rest of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santola. As long as, again, that would be something that I hope would be appear in the minutes. And that particular section pointed out and a short statement about what Mr. Santola said, so that again, when we as counselors can understand what might come up in the public hearing, and we can be prepared to have the time to think about that before we have the public hearing.
Thank you, Counselor.
Gideon, go ahead, please.
Stephen Kennedy, allowing you to talk.
Steve, are you ready?
I can,
Can we move on to?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry. So I sent you all a comment. This is about the lawyer's change to 9503B11 on page 4. There were 2 points. One is the word measure is it seems the wrong word. You don't measure noise by the noise standards. You violate, it would be which violate the noise standards. Measurement is discussed in a different section. And second, the noise standards are not simply 9506. They are 9506 plus 95.03A. And it took me a long time to understand this, but 95.06 is about general noise level, and actually what I can do is affected by what my neighbors are doing. 95.03A.
We lost you there,
And
Steve.
Okay, so did you get the? So I said about violating, and then I just said 9506. The standards are 9506 and 95.03A. 95.06 refers to situations where it's about total noise, and therefore what I can do is affected by others. 95.03A still stands and reflects the state regulations. And I think, so if you, I would suggest you change measure to you complete the references noise standards. That's all.
Okay, there's a.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could Steve just state that one more time? The sound is really bad, and since I'm taking minutes, and even if it's recorded, I won't be able to get it. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, actually, these points are, I sent you all an email that that describes the, so if you want to do it, you can just look at that and you'll be fine. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to note that the town attorney did respond to that concern that was created by, that was offered by, and that's in the summary of in the minutes also. I mean, in the email exchange. And I forwarded that to you all as members of the committee. Okay. So go ahead, Gideon.
Alodia Thomas.
Hi, thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Tony. I think I just would like to move on. We can't argue these things again and again. So I would just like to understand what the next steps are. I presume these minutes have to be done, then they have to go to the council, be reviewed at the council, accepted. Will we then be able to have this on the agenda for discussion, for a meeting sometime soon within the next month or so?
I should just say is that we wanted to get this moved towards the full town council.
Correct.
Because that last time we voted in late December, we all agreed on the version. Not we all agreed, it passed. The idea then was that it would go after the attorney's review, which we really thought was just making sure we dotted the i's and crossed the t's, and then would go to the full council. I know that most of us on this committee did not wanted to delay the public hearing on the ordinance itself, because we know so many people have participated in it. We wanted it to be something that everybody could spend some time with, and that we could take our time as a council to review it. So our hope here is that Council President Sedaris would not put it on the agenda until we get a sense of whether we can meet in person and go over it in detail, given that there's been people who've been working on this and participating and so forth for at least the last 2 years. So that was the intention, was to get it into the council's hand, but to hold the council, ask Council President Sedaris not to put it on the agenda until we were to have an opportunity to meet in person. Council Donato, was that basically our thought on this?
I know that was, I would agree that was I think the thought of the joint committees. I know that I have heard from some residents who would like to.
Am I still able to speak right now?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yes, you are. But I just wanted to.
I'm just unclear. I understand that you would like to have a public meeting, but the reality is I've been working on this since, many people around Victory Field have been working on this since 2013-14. I dealt with Deb Rosati on issues. She's been gone for quite some time. Who knows when we're going to be able to meet together? That could be in the spring. And I really do feel that this is an issue that if we set it up better than this is being set up, because CPC is going to be holding a public meeting. The schools are holding their meetings. If we have to do it just one evening for this to have people speak, but to wait another 6 months until we can meet face to face, to me seems quite ludicrous, and it's too open-ended. I'm just being very honest. People are frustrated. We'd like to see where we stand on this, how to move forward, because it also has implications for policy down the road in terms of signage at our parks, in terms of how, if there is a complaint vetted? It gets into a lot of other issues, and delay does not help us any longer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. We'll take that in. I'm sure Councilor Sedaris will take that into consideration, and we can see whether we can move forward quicker on this. Again, it is something that people put a lot of energy into. We don't have but a few minutes left before the town council needs to meet. So Gideon, is there a final person?
There's one last person. I unmuted them.
Hello, yes, my name is Gerald Carney. I'm a resident of 31 Spring Street. I would just like to ask some questions about the changes in reference to a situation that's been occurring in our neighborhood. It's been affecting me and some of my neighbors. The town has permitted musicians to come to the town parking lot between Spring Street and Church Street. And they've been bringing amplifiers. They've been playing very loud. One in particular is there almost every day. And this has gone on sometimes for 6 or 7 hours. I can tell you, I can hear it in my apartment, even with the windows closed. My questions are the changes to the ordinances. I noticed that it said, quite clearly, you can't play amplified music in a park. For example, the concerts in Saltonstall Park. I assume the bands that play there have a permit to do this. As far as I know, these musicians have no formal permit to do this, and yet they're coming and playing. And as far as I can tell, they're violating the current noise ordinances in terms of the decibel level. I was just wondering what these changes to the noise ordinances, would this prevent musicians from doing this, from coming to the parking lot with amplifiers and playing for as long as they like?
Yes, Councilor Woodland replied yes. They would need a permit or some kind of agreement with the town or one of the town departments.
Okay, so they could come, for example, they wouldn't need a permit maybe to play an acoustic guitar or to sing without a microphone. I wouldn't be too thrilled with that either, but that would be permitted. They wouldn't need to go to the town and say, I'm just going to play an acoustic guitar with no amplification whatsoever. That would not require a permit.
I'm not sure. We need to take that under
Okay.
consideration, and we
Okay.
will.
I mean, I wouldn't hear that, so I wouldn't necessarily care about that. I think the thing that I and my neighbors are most concerned about, as I say, with the current situation, my understanding is that they can just show up and play as long as they like till 9 p.m. I'm trying to get enforcement of the current noise ordinances, which again, I'm sure they are violating quite regularly. But I just want to make sure that going forward, they would have to have a permit to do this any particular day they wanted to come to the parking lot and do it with an amplifier.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to entertain a motion.
I'd like to
from
make a motion
Chair?
that we recommend the
Council,
town
I'm
council.
sorry, Councilor Gannon, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are a couple of emails that had come in just to me. I forwarded them to the reigning members of the committee. Should I read them, or would the
Can you
record-
do it quickly?
I can do it quickly. First, I have an email from Janice Tura, T-U-R-A is her last name. She states, if you live on Summer Street near the Watertown Savings, the decibels fumes from the landscapers who are there for an hour at least has to be over the safe decibel limit. They spend a lot of time running 2 leaf blowers and a tractor and 2 gas-powered trimmers all at the same time.
Okay.
Most of the leaf blowing is not leaves, but blowing sidewalk, dirt and dust onto and across the street and blowing the paved driveway and parking lot. Same for my next door neighbor. Who is going to enforce decibel limits if passed?
Okay, could I ask that you send those again, and we will put them in the minutes? And again, can I take a motion on this, Councilor Woodland?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the full town council ratify the noise ordinance as amended by town council.
Give me a second.
Council being yes.
Second from Councilor Bays. Can I have a roll call, please? Councilor Donato?
Is there a discussion?
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were recommending this to the town council for consideration, not particularly recommending that the council approve the draft. Because you have said that there'll be time, the council's going to discuss the draft.
Yes, at a council meeting, correct.
Right. So I wouldn't be voting to forward this to the town council to approve as is.
Councilor Woodland, can you repeat the motion? I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, well, to that point, you can just make an amendment. That's what Councilor Palumbo was alluding to earlier, when the motion would be to ratify it as amended, and you'd say, oh, a friendly amendment, I'd like to add amplified noise to 9503, whatever section it is.
Thank you.
So that's something there. Yeah.
On the motion, any other discussion? Councilor Gannon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just following up with what Lisa had said, so is this motion is to take the recommendations of the town attorney and recommend that they be added to the draft, which will be considered by the full council. Is that my understanding of this vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Donato?
Yes.
Councilor Woodland?
Oh,
No. Councilor Gannon?
Yes.
Councilor Bays?
Yes.
Councilor Feltner? Yes, okay. And my,
Yes.
Councilor Donato asked me, please.
Councilor Palumbo.
Yes. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
so moved.
So move second. I'll second the motion. Councilor Lisa Feltner, Councilor Feltner second. Councilor Donato?
Yes.
Councilor Bays?
Yes.
Bays? Councilor Gannon?
Yes.
Councilor Woodland?
Yes.
Councilor Donato, all right. Councilor Donato, could you ask me, please?
Councilor Palumbo.
Yes. Thank you very much.